more that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place. All right, social media, welcome all. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. This is our Live at 5 on Tuesdays with me. I'm Andy from Jumpstart Mastery, and Brenda Binkin from B Branding. I don't know how she does it, but she scours the internet, identifies topics that are pinging the top, and then surprises me with this impromptu. It's not completely impromptu. There's some planning, but I don't square with it until shortly before these things. Presents me a topic that's very timely. Today is why we point fingers, the roots of breakup blame. I've been thinking a little bit about this before talking today, and I don't want to sound cliche, so I've been giving some consideration to how we at Jumpstart are concerned with certain things. We're concerned with self-regulation. We're concerned with maintaining a relationship with someone if possible after there's been an incident of some note. And if there can't be, how can there be peace? So welcome to this discussion. I hope you're all well. We have certainly seen a lot of breakups in social media this past week. Big names, globally visible personalities, seemingly inseparable, and then a big falling out, a big public falling out, and then people to some degree drawing their own conclusions about information they trust, what they might not trust, what they might have doubt about, and then the news cycle being replaced with something more, let's say, cycling to the limbic system. The lifespan of some of these things are amazingly short in as much as they get our attention for a few minutes. And the attention economy right now is certainly demanding more intense, less duration, high frequency encounters with news. So it does raise an interesting question, though. I think that on Tuesdays, at least, we're committed to topics that apply to everyday life. On Thursdays, we deal with topics that are more consistent with the professional disciplines and crisis de-escalation and people who have duties to respond to emergency. But on Tuesdays, we're interested in things that everyday people grapple with in all of their relationships. And perhaps you can identify a relationship in which you were not, let's say, completely at peace. Most people aren't, I should say also, with the ending of a relationship, which leads to a very reasonable question. Have you observed yourself engaging in critical commentary, appraisal of another person's behavior when required or prompted to discuss the breakup? Why we point fingers is another way of describing this phenomena. Someone asks us, hey, what happened? We immediately start describing the other person's behavior. This could be in terms of articulating in your own way what they did without providing any, let's say, specific behavioral observation criteria, and it's just filled with a lot of inferences. Maybe you're reading about it and you're witnessing someone and there's a story been written about them, and the quotes are descriptions of the other person's behavior with a lot of appraisal attached to it. They were malicious, they were insensitive, they were mean, these qualifying words. And I would say it takes a lot of discipline to, if you're going to describe another person's behavior, to describe it with specific behavioral observation and without inference. We actually have trainings about that. We actually have trainings that help people document an incident that involved another person, and sometimes the outcome of that incident was some form of um, containment, seclusion, restraint. We document those things. And it's funny when you go to the documentation of these events, just like in our interpersonal relationships, we will read the employee's notes about what happened with this person served or patient, where there was this outcome of seclusion, restraint, restriction of liberty, whatever the case might be. And the documentation is filled with inference. It's filled with they were aggressive, they were unpredictable, they were uncooperative. No description of their behavior, rather just a conclusion about what they were, which clearly could be serving two goals. One, to let you know what the author felt about it, and to let you know what they want you to know, which may not necessarily be what happened. Isn't that interesting? So, when discussing a breakup, here are some ideas on shifting from blame to something more consistent with reality and allowing someone the dignity to draw their own conclusion. It would be to specifically describe the observable behavior without any inference. This is a tall order because it causes people to think more deeply into how they're describing someone else's behavior. What if we were talking about let's say the one that's gotten extraordinary coverage in the media lately is President Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene. This has gotten extraordinary news coverage. This was a seemingly inseparable team that had a violently explosive ending to their relationship, figuratively speaking, with a lot of criticism initially and inference, and I would say harmful language used to describe one another, particularly from the president in his description of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I think we're at a level of social consciousness and awareness now where people are starting to see through when all that is done are the hurling of inferences. People question now more than ever, well, what precisely did they do for you to describe them as a traitor? This is someone whose outward-facing image might not resonate well or align with that description. It seems like instead the president in that case was describing how he felt about his relationship with this person, that he felt betrayed, so he called her a traitor. He felt angry, so he hurled insult upon her. And to some degree that was done in reciprocity, but far less so from her, at least in my observation. This is just an example. It's quite telling when the inferences that are used to describe someone's behavior are looked at that way, because you then begin to get a window into what they may be feeling. So let's say you have a friend in your life who has had a breakup with another friend, and in their description, they're using all of these terms to describe them. It's reasonable to apply the filter of what we would describe as emotional labeling in their word choices to describe their behavior. Are they using words that are anchored to feelings? Are they using words that are anchored to personal experience? And if so, what can we conclude about that? The other side of using a description for another human being's behavior is to use specific behavioral observation, and when necessary, to make quotes. For example, if we were describing the difference between someone being threatening and what they did, here's one way to change the inference model. The person came up to me and held their fist of their right hand over their head, shaking it, saying, quote, "I want to frickin' bash you," unquote. They approached me very rapidly and used high volume in this statement. Where are the inferences in that? You can pretty much draw a conclusion if that's true, if specific behavioral observation is true, we can probably conclude from that this person was feeling angry, they were targeting the author, and they threatened violence. You can communicate even more accurately with specific behavioral observation than you can with inferences that leverage feeling words in the description of someone else's behavior. Here's how you can move out of blame. And if you're being blamed, here's one way to not let blame, especially if it's inaccurate, bother you. The blame statements that are coming is just poker tell signs of what they're feeling. Doesn't mean at all that it's true. Doesn't mean at all that you have to allow that to rent space in your head. Being on the receiving side of blame is interesting, especially for me today as I age compared to, when I was in school and I think about being a young man. You can about blame me for nearly anything today and my needle's not going to move. And I'll stay committed to a process of specific behavioral observation and avoiding the trap of getting into conflict with blame. And when someone models that, you can find your way to resolution. If both people are not modeling it, if both people are blaming, this isn't going to go anywhere. But if one person is at least willing to look at blame through a different lens than one where they have to defend against it, like St. Augustine wrote, "Lord, deliver me from the lust of vindicating myself." When we get blamed, we feel immediately inspired to want to correct the assertions that are attached to the blame. This is the trap. Now, certainly nobody enjoys the experience of being blamed for something that's completely false. What I'm proposing is a way to manage it in the moment. If you apply a filter that blame is signal for someone's feeling state, you have an opportunity to potentially diffuse this situation. So, at the risk of the tough part about this is because we have all of the like the folk wisdom on blame. When you point your finger, there are three fingers pointing back at you. Well, that's true. Everybody hears that. Most people don't like hearing it. So why use that statement? Take something from the Bible. The measure that you use will be the measure that's used for you. That's equally unpleasant to consider. It kind of inspires one to really not blame anybody because that's going to be a measure used against me. Well, what if I was really wronged? Well, yeah, okay, you were really wronged. It doesn't change the prescription. If the interest is in understanding blame, understanding what generally generates it, what generates blame, we would say, is not thinking through and describing instead, not thinking through what is truly desired in the communication, and instead trying to relay with these appraisals of another human being what we're feeling. Blaming is signal for someone's feeling state. If you can prepare yourself for that, not during times when you're being blamed, but in between those events. Anybody who's working in care and services today, in any psychiatric unit, has to manage 35 accusations a day, at least, from the unit they're working on. They have to manage accusations of sexual misconduct, care misconduct, um, accusations associated to the administering of services. In other words, like what was provided or what wasn't provided. People at the direct line level are having to manage that constantly. And I would say our public safety partners now, probably more than ever, are having to manage that as well. There's no need to allow your needle to move heavily in the presence of that. This is a mode of communication of people who are expressing themselves more than likely following the activation of their limbic system. And in the activation of their limbic system, their diversity of thought and expression is diminished considerably. That's the point. So if someone is engaging him, you ever hear blame language from someone who's like completely calm? No, most of the time you hear blame language from someone who's really animating themselves about how wrong someone else is or how bad someone else is. You're not hearing it from a regulated state. So from that, you can conclude that someone has become, to some degree, placed in dysregulation or discontrol and is using blame language to describe how they feel. If you know that, the weight of the statements that are nested in this blame becomes a lot lighter. I hope this was meaningful. We're at a time right now where this language, blame language, is everywhere. It's all over our social media feeds. It's in posts. It's in schools. It's being managed by teachers, youth engagement specialists, psychiatric care and services staff, customer service staff, workforces all over the place. Blame, 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 blame. It's everywhere. Blame is signal for what someone is feeling. If you can look yourself in the face and say, in a mirror, of course, if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I didn't do that thing that they're blaming me for. I didn't do it. I just didn't do it. If you can say that, blame don't hurt. Accusation doesn't hurt. Well, what about having to fix everyone's perception? Let me tell you right now, you're not going to be able to do it. You're just not going to be able to do it. Most people don't think about other people for more than 20 seconds. The idea that people are thinking something about you in a derogatory way, having that rent space in your head is not the other person's problem. That's your problem. What are you concerned with? Are you concerned with living a peaceful life, becoming closer to your creator, being more socially conscious in your community, in your workplace? If those are your interests, you're going to come up against blame. It's going to be there. There's no such thing as being truly concerned about those things and not having to face it. Does it mean that every relationship has to break up if there's blame featured? Of course not. Does it mean that breakups shouldn't happen? No, not at all. Blame is not a phenomena let me strike that and restate it. Blame is its own freestanding phenomena. It's its own freestanding occurrence in relationship. You can choose who you want to be when you hear it and see it. So with that, be curious when you hear it. associate the feeling state of the sender of the blame to the words they're using, and I think you'll get to the bottom of it pretty quickly. So I hope that this has been helpful, because it is somewhat seminal in managing crisis events with human beings, whether we know them well or not, whether we're in intimate relationship with them or not. I hope you got something out of this. Join us this Thursday. Oh, no, we won't have a live Thursday because I'll be cooking for, 20 people. I hope you have a blessed Thanksgiving. And if you see people in need, give them something to eat. Give them a place to go. Invite them into your home. I'm excited this year about some of the choices we made in showing acceptance and welcoming to people at our own Thanksgiving. So maybe I'll talk about that a little bit next week. Kind of a jazzy shirt for me today, but I really like it. I got it from an event I went to a couple of months ago, and it's kind of cool. It's unlike what I normally wear. I hope I don't look weird to a lot of people, but I'm also not going to think about it more than like 20 seconds. I used that as a good measurement earlier. Take good care to all of you, and I'll see you next week.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Or that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.